Funding for this program was provided by Albuquerque's Sandia Peak Aerial Tramway, taking people from around the world to the peak since 1966. Architectural Research Consultants Incorporated in Albuquerque. ARC has provided professional planning and consulting services to New Mexico and the West since 1976. Albuquerque Home Sales. Joan Wilson, owner broker, where character and experience count.
Everybody comes out here to Moriarty. It's about an hour out of Albuquerque, a nice truck stop on Route 66. It's pretty bizarre how fast it is with all the cyclists, all the old guys and the young guys come out here and they ride their bikes real fast, always set records.
Five, four,
Robert
three,
Armstrong,
2, 1,
Lisa Doherty,
go.
Wendy Wiggins.
People would come from all over the country and still do, especially masters, people who in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s even, and the celebration of life that goes on out there.
I want to be like Gordy when I grow up.
That's one of the rewards that you get. A nice lady comes up and kisses you.
Yeah.
It's like a time warp out there, I mean, you have incredibly fast times out there, but just like I say, when you're actually out riding it, it seems like it takes forever. It's just like, oh, I'm dying, this is taking forever. You finish, all of a sudden you had the fastest ride you ever did.
It did seem sort of like a time warp. It's a space warp too, because during a time trial you are not part of the universe as we know it. You're in your own little world.
People say you must love time trials because you do good at them. No, I'd hate time trials, but there's the sensation during the time trial for very short periods when it'd be like supernatural.
How long do you plan to keep on racing?
Oh, no, I guess to be 99.
Time, ever present in a world that seems to spin faster with each passing day, ever present as we reach further into its limits that pass away, as time also passes us by. It is late summer in the Estancia Valley of New Mexico, time again to reach out across the limits of what has become known as the fastest bicycle time trial course in the United States. Straight and flat, 40 kilometers, a little less than 25 miles, a course that holds on average 80 to 85% of American records at the 40 and 20 kilometer distances. An obscure stretch of road along New Mexico 41 that has brought cyclists young and old to reach their personal best, or even reach for an American record.
Our most famous rider at Record Challenge is Lance Armstrong.
Five-time Tour de France winner Lance Armstrong had no humble beginning as he ventured into the world of bicycle racing. In 1988, Armstrong, a high school senior and an already well-known prodigy triathlete, would come to the Estancia Valley and the Record Challenge time trial and shatter a 20-kilometer junior American record by 45 seconds.
It was a very cold day. His recollection of the ride is that he stayed in the car till the very last minute, wrapped up in a coat. When he was called to the start line, he jumped on his bike and set a new record. That record's been broken several times since then as fitness and equipment got better. Lance was a triathlete. These people that are setting these records are much more specialized.
National time trial out there, but the cool thing about Moriarty is you get a race against everybody who's ever been your age, and that would be a great accomplishment tomorrow to be able to break the record, because that means you're not just the best this year, but you're the best.
Chris is 16 this year, and he was making a second attempt to beat Blake Caldwell's 15, 16-year-old record. For Chris to do this, he's got to have a very high RPM cadence, very much like what you see when Lance Armstrong rides a time trial.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Now up next is Alec Blue.
It was an 8-hour drive down here for me, a pretty boring drive, but I keep coming back every year because it's worth it to get a shot at the national records out here at Moriarty.
Was somebody else that actually summed it up before. They said if you could see the world through John Fry's eyes for one day or even 1 hour, you'd be seeing red for a month. You know, I mean, when he wants to, he can be very, very focused. I mean, the guy knows how to suffer. You know, like when weather's miserable or things are just going all wrong, you know, and most people are just, you know, we're grumbling and stuff like that. The guy doesn't complain. He's like, what are you complaining for? You know, what's the deal? What's wrong?
A little less than 25 miles in 47 minutes and 35 seconds, an American record that has stood for over 13 years. In 1998, Fry would be an Olympic long team member who missed the final cut in a controversial ride-off after dominating the Olympic trials that year. In 1990, he would miss the World Championship team selection in the wake of up-and-coming riders with names like Lance Armstrong and Mike McCarthy. He would then return home to New Mexico, to the only venue left to him, to the Estancia Valley, 40 minutes east of Albuquerque, and the Record Challenge time trial. On September 2nd, 1990, he would set a new American record of 47 minutes, 35 seconds, a mark that still stands to this day.
To that last few miles of that ride, last quarter would be 6 miles, when I knew that I was like 2 or 3 miles from the line, once I was in that last quarter, it was very surreal. Time would alternately go super fast or be standing still. The sensation during the time trial for very short periods when it'd be like supernatural. And you'd be finishing this time trial and you realize when you're that close to the end, it's like you realize the briefness of life. And, you just tear the door off the hinge. You're like, it's time to injure yourself. You know, it's time to get a heart attack.
I remember one of my images from the Record Challenge is a man in his 80s who jumped up on the podium. I thought that was a wonderful image.
As far as enjoying it, I can't say that if I meet somebody that says they enjoy doing a time trial, I think I'll look at them a little oddly. You look back on it after the race and you think, yeah, that wasn't too bad. But during the race, it's hard to enjoy. You're working too hard. I broke the record by 40 seconds, 40, 45 on that order. And I think I'll try again next year because 3 years ago I beat that by 2 minutes, and I'm not really slower now than I was then, so I've got to hit it again.
Today for the 20K, I thought the conditions were ideal. I mean, we started out early, and I got a good start and a good go. So I just poured it on, and I did set a record today.
The other kind of older hero we had was a local rider, Jack Pardee, who's been in the Albuquerque, New Mexico cycling scene for many years. Jack previously held the 85 plus record and came out, he's 90 this year. So he rode, and we have now established a 90 plus record.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Come on, Jack, go get it.
So these are tough old guys. They're a lot of fun. They had a great time at the award ceremony, all three of them up there shouting victory. The other team that we had that set a record was Eleanor Hamry and Brad Snyder. And Eleanor came out a few years ago to Record Challenge. She was 65 plus, but her time was so fast that it was faster than the previous women's 60 plus record. So she got both of those records. So now she's got 3 records in the record book.
Specialness, I should say, of this race. It's not in a big city. It's not in a real well-known place. We come here because it's the fastest certified course in the country.
Julie Kaplan is from Oxnard, California. She rides with San Diego Cyclovets, which is one of the largest masters teams in the country.
First record I broke was in '98 for women 45-49, and I've been back here every year since trying to lower it, but I haven't. The good news is no one else has lowered it either. And then a couple years ago, I teamed up with a 65-year-old teammate from Albuquerque, and we broke the mixed 110 tandem event. And then last year, I have a female teammate. She and I came out to try and attempt to break the women's 90-plus record. We went fast enough that we broke the 90 and the 70-plus record in one ride. And then this year, I age up to the 50s, so that means there's a new record to shoot for.
One of the first things I did in my early years of cycling, because this being the late 70s and early 80s, was I bought a shortwave radio, and I could pick up the BBC broadcasts of the Tour de France and some of these other major races.
The course at Moriarty has an interesting history. There was a local group of bike racers, Jim Cost and Jerry Kiutu at the forefront, that started looking around for a place to hold 40-kilometer time trials.
Because we had some fast riders in the state, going back to the late 70s, I guess it was, or early 80s, there were a couple of people who realized that the course out here, which had been used for time trials for a couple of years, was extremely fast because of the elevation, 6,200 feet, and it being as flat as it is. Now, back in those days, about 1980 or so, there were only 3 main racing clubs in the state. In Albuquerque, there was the Rio Grande Racing Team, which I belonged to. At that time, I was race director. We ran a bunch of club races during the summer. And at one of the RGRT club meetings, I brought up the notion of having a national event where not just the New Mexico riders would have an opportunity to set national records, but everybody to come in. And most of the riders who were not time trial riders, who were members of the board at that time, kind of looked at me like, "Are you nuts?"
The cycling community is so into that. It's like they almost worship the value of the record challenge course over at Moriarty for its speed.
That was surveyed in '84, and that was the year, coincidentally, I was doing the state championships as well, like 51, 57. And so that went a long ways to getting other people interested in the course, because I beat the national record by about 20 seconds, 20 or 30 seconds.
The women's elite 40K record would find a home at Moriarty almost from the onset, with Jane Gagne, then known as Jane Marshall, who would set records from 1986 to 1989. Liz Downing would better Gagne's mark of 54.27 to the tune of a flat 54 in 1990. The women's mark would then find itself absent from Moriarty for 4 years when Inga Thompson would set a 53.14 mark at Tula, Utah in 1991. In 1995, a young Mari Holden, who would become a silver medalist at Sydney in 2000, would bring the record back home to Moriarty with a 51.36, a record that still stands to this day. In the mid-1980s, a new face would arrive on the New Mexico bicycling scene. It would be Kent Bostic, an already seasoned and well-known rider from California. Bostic would add a competitive element to John Fry's natural ability that would bring out the best in both, and would culminate in Fry's 1990 record and an Olympic berth for Bostic in 1992 at Barcelona.
John Fry and Kent Bostic were two of the what we call now the elite guys. And they were pretty much banging heads back then. Kent was like a proven racer, had raced quite a long time, had been very well sponsored.
Kent was more of a foil. We made each other better, absolutely, and we learned a lot from each other.
John Fry was basically a local boy, grew up in Tucumcari, had lived here, came here to go to college. Anyway, with those two guys really going at it out the time trials all the time, there became a whole lot of popularity for the time trial here.
We had just a handful of records that were set the very first time, and every year after that we have had records.
3, 2, 1, go.
1 minute until start.
To me, the essence of the time trial, two things: focus and pain. You have to be able to be completely focused on the time trial, and you have to be able to create, sustain, and increase the pain.
Julie Kaplan pushes the limit in the last kilometer during day one of the 2003 Record Challenge time trial.
She came out looking to set a new 50-plus record, and unfortunately was right in the middle of the headwind shift on Sunday.
Well, the conditions were a little slow today. The air was heavy, it was a little cool, and even though I felt like I had a good effort, at the end I missed the record by about 20 seconds.
First thing she said was, see you tomorrow.
If we have anything that's better than today, then I should be right there.
For juniors under 18 years old, there's a maximum gear they are allowed to use. And the way that's measured is we set the bike in the fastest gear, and 1 RPM of the crank can only move the bicycle 26 feet. Some of the current records for the juniors were set when those rules were not in effect.
On the course and on the hunt, 9-time junior national champion Chris Stockberger, continues his quest to set a new junior 15-16 record at the 2003 Record Challenge.
There was no sprint for the finish. Your sprint for the finish began miles ago.
You know, what we're talking about here is Chris missed that record by 20 seconds. And it's a 20-kilometer ride. So he only needed 1 second every kilometer to get that record. That's how close he was. And he was blown. I mean, at the end of the race, he was off the bike, and you know, I don't think he had much breakfast left in him by the time we got to him, his folks got to him. But he's a great kid, and there was no complaints, there was no whining. And the first thing he said to his folks was, we're coming back tomorrow if we're that close. Too windy on Monday, and we didn't get any records.
There's also the weather factor, you know. I mean, if you look at when most of the records are set, you'll see like 5 or 6 records on any given day. And see, there's usually a whole bunch on certain days, whereas other years, people just aren't really coming close to records.
Well, I can't say I'm disappointed because, I mean, this is bike racing. You have to come out and you have to tackle whatever the weather gives you, whether it's humidity or wind. And today was a little slower because of the wind, but I mean, I left it all out there, so I'm going home very content with my efforts.
That would be so great if they could have a really, you know, big time trial out here and get the big names out here.
For next year, we're going to pick it up. We have acquired some sponsorship.
That'd be neat if Lance would come out here.
We'll be inviting him as well as a few other people that we think might have a chance to set a new record, because what would be better than setting a brand new record on the 20th anniversary of the race?
So the same day I did that 47:35, Kent Bostic did a 47 as well. So to my knowledge, there's been five now 47s out there. So that kind of tells me that, yeah, you know, it's not a fluke result. Yeah, that record at this point is really getting kind of soft because we're over 10 years on, and certainly the training techniques have gotten better. The equipment's gotten much better.
The event has always been pretty low key. The people that understand time trials and people that want to set records understand that Moriarty is the place to do it. The USCF has 45 road time trials in the book right now, and 38 of those records are held in Moriarty.
I would like to see one of the pros come out here and do it, because I think once you had a pro rider come and do it, it would be like an hour record thing. People say, well, Lance has that record, and it's a blah, 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 blah. It's a 44, it's a 43, or it's a 45.
Funding for this program was provided by Albuquerque's Sandia Peak Aerial Tramway, taking people from around the world to the peak since 1966. Architectural Research Consultants Incorporated in Albuquerque. ARC has provided professional planning and consulting services to New Mexico and the West since 1976. Albuquerque Home Sales. Joan Wilson, owner-broker, where character and experience count. A Time, a Place, and a Race, the Record Challenge Time Trial, is available on VHS or DVD. Make money order or check payable to McGaffey Films. Send to Race, P.O. Box 14948, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87191. Or call 505-323-2161.